Okay, yes, finally talking about this show. So here's how it went down. I watched the first 3 episodes as they premiered, because they all premiered on the same night. And I was like, alright, so this show's going for the slow burn. I watched the next episode a week later, and it was still pretty slow, and I was like, I don't want to wait every week for a slow burn. So I decided to just binge the season once it was done. And so I did, so now here's my review. And since this season has been wrapped up for a week, I'm gonna have some spoilers here. So you've been warned. If you have not watched the entirety of this season, you probably should steer clear of this video, unless you don't care. Alright, let's get started. Andor, Season 1. So Andor is the newest live-action Star Wars series on Disney+. It more or less revolves around the character of Cassian Andor, who we remember from Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. This season takes place about 5 years before the events of said film. So yeah, it's more or less a Rogue One prequel series. We have Diego Luna returning as Cassian Andor. He's kind of a lowlife trying to make his way in the galaxy, which is currently under the iron fist of the Empire. And Luthen, played by Stellan Skarsgård, approaches him and he's like, hey, come fight for the rebellion. And Andor's like, okay. And now we have our new Star Wars series, which I guess people are raving about. People are saying this is like the best Star Wars thing to happen since Disney bought Lucasfilm. But I don't know what to say, man. Call me a curmudgeon or a Scrooge, but I was not the biggest fan of this one. Just giving you my honest opinion here. I mean, the acting is fine all around. Not a single character is acted poorly. I like Diego Luna as Cassian Andor. I like seeing how cold he is. He's like willing to do things that other more warm-hearted characters might not. Cause like Rogue One describes, rebellion is not always squeaky clean. I do like kind of seeing that side, and I do gotta give all sorts of props to this show for being the hands-down most grittiest thing I've ever seen in Star Wars, like ever. This show really does get down in the dirt, and I do like that. Like the first few episodes, there are some pretty PG-13 things there. I was like, wow, alright, was not expecting that. This show might not be for little kids. Then again, they'll probably get bored by it anyway. Stellan Skarsgård, of course he's good. In fact, at this point, I'm pretty sure he rarely ever knows he's being filmed. They're just like, yeah, Stellan Skarsgård, be Stellan Skarsgård-ish. Perfect, cut. Let's use that in our series. I just noticed that he plays the same kind of character in everything these days. Which is cool, because his characters are usually really cool. I'm just observing, though. Mon Mothma's in this series, once again played by Genevieve O'Reilly. And I thought this would be the thing that made me go, oh yeah, now she's a fleshed out character, and she kind of is. I just wish she were more interesting, though. And that's where I'm going to get into it, because my biggest thing about this show is that I found a large chunk of it to be B-O-R-I-N-G. And I apologize if I might be triggering those of you who like this show.
I liked it.
Power to you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that from my perspective, this show was a snooze fest. Like the first 2/3 of this show, there's some action, sure, and that's exciting. Andor goes on this mission with this group of rebels, and that's all well and good. But for the most part, it's just a lot of sitting around, and talking, and politics, and no music in the background, so it's just boring. Like whenever Mon Mothma's talking with anyone and there's no music in the background, I just want to be like, da 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 da. I thought this was Star Wars, man! No one watches Star Wars for the politics. Yeah, I haven't been this bored with Star Wars since the prequels. Remember the prequels? People complained about the politics being boring in those movies because, hello, this is supposed to be Star Wars. Where are the guns and the pew-pews? Granted, there are guns and pew-pews in this show, of course. But the action is so few and far between the boring politics scenes. I was falling asleep. Same thing with the Empire, the ISB, I didn't care about them. There are long, boring scenes with them, plotting out their evil schemes, and none of it interested me. And really, it's because we know the Empire's bad. We know they have schemes, we know they're building stuff, we know they're building a Death Star, and we know they're trying to keep the galaxy in order. We already know all that stuff, so why do we have to have these long, boring scenes with them? I mean, I guess it's for, their character development with that Deidre officer. I didn't care about her at all. The biggest offense in this case is that Cyril dude, I didn't give a fuck about him. He works for the Empire, but he got in trouble, so he goes home to his mommy, played by Mrs. Fig from Harry Potter. And I guess it's supposed to show that, I don't know what, he's pathetic? Anytime this show cut to him, I was like, so? And it's funny, eventually it shows that he ends up getting the hots for Deidre. The scene where he goes up to her and he's pleading for her, I was like, this is Anakin and Padme all over again, cause this sucks. I mean, talk about pathetic. And I felt nothing. And I'll say this is about the first 7 episodes of the show. Eventually, Cassian Andor winds up in this prison where they're working to build stuff for the Empire. And surprise, surprise, Andy Serkis shows up. And I was like, oh, holy shit, wait a minute. He's Snoke in the sequels. Oh, so what, we might get some sort of Snoke origin in this show? That's cool. And I'm saying we still might, but for now he plays a character named Kino Loy, and this is where the show actually got kinda good. And it was all because of Andy Serkis. He elevated this entire season. Because at first he's like, none of us are getting out of here, we're gonna be here forever, until we are eventually released. And then when Andor finds out that once people are released, they're just put back into prison again, Kino Loy's like, alright, yeah, fuck this, we're all getting out of here. And it gets to the point where he's giving this Captain America the Winter Soldier style speech.
There is one way out.
This was the best moment in the entire season. I love this. That was really good, and it was partially due to his acting, the music building up, this rebellious tone. It was like catching fire. Everyone was like, yeah, we're gonna rebel. I was like, cool, alright, took 8 episodes, we're 2/3 of the way through the season, but we're finally here. I'm finally into this. And so eventually everyone does get out. They're jumping into the water, they're like, one way out, we gotta swim. Except Kino Loy, he's like, I can't swim. So the last shot we see of him is him looking down at the water, so we don't really know if he ever jumped or not, meaning he could have stayed behind. Maybe the Empire got a hold of him. Maybe that leads to him turning into Snoke or something or other sometime down the line. I don't know. I am curious about that though. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that to me was the most interesting part of the entire season. So props to Andy Serkis in this show. He did a great job. Shows that he's more than just a motion capture actor. He's just a good actor, period. Go him. Then we get to the finale. Andor returns to his home world of Ferrix, where there's this little uprising after his mother died. His mother, Marva, played by Fiona Shaw, Petunia from Harry Potter. She died, and I actually liked the last scene with her where she's like, I'm not gonna run away. I'm gonna stand up because I'm a rebel. That was cool. So after she died, they had this whole procession, which leads to a skirmish against the Empire, and, you know, that's all well and good. The season ends with this scene between Andor and Luthen, and I'll be honest, I was like, I think I'm like half aware of what's actually going on here. Like their dialogue, I was like, yeah, what? I get that Luthen might have been there to kill him so the Empire wouldn't get answers. That part I got. Everything else they were talking about, I was like, I'm lost. And that's because of all the dialogue scenes prior that bored the shit out of me, that they lost me and they lost my interest, so I didn't remember most of it. That's the show's fault. And the fact that that's where the season ends, I was like, well, that was anticlimactic. I get that there's gonna be another season. This does have to tie in with Rogue One after all. And honestly, most of the episodes of this season had anticlimactic endings. Like, they would end in the middle of scenes. It was weird. But this being the finale, I was expecting something more. I don't know. The post-credits scene was great, though. It shows that while Andor and all of them were in that prison building stuff for the Empire, the stuff they were building was actually part of the Death Star's super laser. I love the cinematography of that post-credits scene. It just goes out and out and out, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, it's the Death Star. I was like, holy shit. So Andor helped build this thing? That's crazy. Yeah, that was pretty cool. No wonder he wants so badly to get the plans to this thing in Rogue One. So now I'm going to talk about the music in this show, which was composed by Nicholas Breitel. And I thought the music was alright. Didn't really sound Star Wars-ish, but I get that a lot of the Disney Plus Star Wars shows have been trying to get away from that John Williams sound, which for the life of me, I don't know why. Yeah, I'm not going to be getting this soundtrack. Although I did like the fact that every time the title came up, the music was different. That was cool. But in the end, Andor Season 1 had some neat concepts, but it had a lot of missteps with me. I was looking forward to this show because it looked really gritty, and it looked like it could have a lot of action. And this show was really gritty, and it had some cool action. But for the most part, it was just boring with politics and boring. Again, that's not why I watch Star Wars personally. I know, people might hate me after watching this because, IGN was giving episodes of this show like 10 out of 10? To which I was like, how? You guys like this shit? Alright, power to you. I am gonna watch Season 2, since hopefully that'll be a little more exciting and it'll tie more in with Rogue One. We're gonna meet K2SO next season, so maybe this season was just all the setup for that, which I guess I'd be down for. I just wish this setup was more interesting. But you know, whatever, can't win them all. So Andor Season 1, have you watched all of it yet? What are your thoughts on it? If you want to destroy me in the comment section, well, go ahead, I guess. So whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Now, if you'll excuse me, I still haven't gotten started on that Wednesday series yet. I do want to watch that, so now I'm about to get started. Hopefully I'll have my review of it up soon. Peace!